I still remember that night at the dinner party like it was yesterday. Mia had invited me to this fancy get-together hosted by one of her friends, one of those upscale, look how successful we all are, events in a chic Brooklyn loft. Everyone dressed to impress, trading stories about promotions, vacations, and the kind of lives I'd only ever glimpsed from the outside. I was there because Mia wanted me there, or so I thought. Things were normal at first. Wine flowing, laughter filling the air, polite conversations bouncing around the room. Then came the question I had heard 100 times before. So, what does Michael do again? Someone asked casually. I kept my head down, expecting Mia to give that usual vague but respectful answer like, oh, he works in finance, or, he's in corporate. Enough to make me sound like I had a respectable career. But no, Mia smirked, swirled her wine, and dropped the bomb. Oh, Michael? He just pushes papers in some tiny little cubicle all day. The room erupted into laughter. Jessica, the hostess, gasped dramatically, wait, so he's like your corporate secretary? Mia laughed even harder. Yeah, basically. He sits there typing away on spreadsheets while the real power players make the big moves. I felt my stomach tighten, but not because of what she said. It was the way she said it. The smugness dripping from her tone. The way her friends fed off it, like my job, my hard work, was a joke. I was standing there, humiliated right in front of everyone I knew, or thought I knew. She didn't even hesitate. It was instinct. Natural. Like this was how she'd always seen me. I could have called her out. I could have humiliated her right back. But I didn't. Instead, I forced a small chuckle, took a sip of my drink, and leaned back in my chair. Yeah, I said, calm and controlled, just a boring little cubicle job. Mia glanced at me. I saw a flicker in her eyes. Was it triumph? Satisfaction? I didn't care. Because in that moment, I knew she had made the biggest mistake of her life. What Mia didn't realize was that my pathetic cubicle job was about to change everything. For the past 6 months, the company I worked for had been restructuring. There was a major shakeup, and I had been working closely with upper management. My boring job was about to transform into a senior corporate role, with a big salary bump, and the position was on the other side of the country. I'd known for weeks. My boss, Mr. Thompson, had told me outright, Michael, it's yours if you want it. But I kept it to myself. I knew if Mia found out I was becoming the kind of man she always wanted to date, successful, powerful, well-paid, she'd cling to me even tighter. Pretend to respect me again. Reel me back in. I wasn't going to let that happen. So I let her dig her own grave. I quietly cut her off financially. No more rent, no more utility payments. I canceled our shared Netflix and Spotify accounts. I told the landlord I was terminating our lease, but I didn't tell Mia. I stopped talking about future plans, no vacations, no wedding talks. And I started pulling away emotionally, not enough for her to get suspicious, just enough to unsettle her. Mia thought she had me wrapped around her finger. She didn't realize I was already gone. The morning I left, Mia woke up feeling safe, scrolling through social media like every other day. She had no clue that today her whole world would collapse. Her Uber app told her payment method was declined. She brushed it off, switched cards, and went on with her day. But at work, everything was different. She decided to stop by my office, not because she missed me, but to check if I was still there. She walked right past the receptionist and froze when she saw my desk. Empty. Cleaned out. Replaced by someone new. She asked an old coworker where I was. Gone, he said. Promoted. Moved to the West Coast last week. Mia's face drained of color. She sent me a message. Hey, I stopped by your office. Didn't know you were moving. Can we talk? No reply. She tried calling. Voicemail. She realized she had lost me. Her texts piled up, desperate, angry, pleading. But I was done. Mia's friends turned on her when she confided in them. They weren't interested in defending the girl who had walked all over me for years. Her social status? Gone with me. Her fling with Liam? Over. Her career? A mess. She was alone. Mia tried to come back, texts, calls, even showing up at my door. I ignored everything. Because Mia never loved me. She loved what I gave her, security. And that was gone. I was finally free. The morning after Mia finally realized I was gone, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. Not because I was happy she was struggling, I wasn't. But because I had taken back control of my life. The weight of pretending, of being someone I wasn't just to keep a relationship afloat, had finally lifted. That day, I packed the last of my things, double-checked the flight details for my new job across the country, and called my best friend, Jake. Man, it's about time, Jake said. You've been stuck in that situation way too long. I laughed. Yeah, but it's not just about leaving her. It's about starting over. I was moving from New York to Seattle, a fresh start in a city I barely knew. It was terrifying and exciting all at once. The first few weeks were a blur. The new job was demanding, but I loved it. Meetings with decision makers, leading projects, building teams. The paycheck was bigger, sure, but the respect I was finally earning felt even better. More than that, I was rediscovering who I was outside of any relationship. Mia tried to reach me a few times in the early days. Texts begging for a second chance. Calls that I ignored. I knew deep down she wasn't sorry for how she treated me, she was just scared of being alone. One evening, after a long day at work, I checked my voicemail and found a message from her. Her voice cracked as she apologized, said she was sorry for everything. But I didn't call back. Instead, I focused on myself. I signed up for a gym, started reading again, reconnected with friends I'd neglected. It felt good. One weekend, Jake flew out to Seattle to visit. We hit a bar downtown, talking late into the night. He asked me, "Are you really done with Mia?" I nodded. "Completely." "Good," he said. "You deserve better." And I believed him. I started dating casually again, but this time, I was cautious. I wasn't interested in rushing into something just to fill a void. I wanted someone who respected me. Someone who saw me as more than just a paycheck or a safety net. Sometimes, I thought about Mia and that party, the night she called me a cubicle drone, the moment she showed me who she really was. It hurt, but it also reminded me why I walked away. Because sometimes, the hardest thing is not the leaving, it's learning to believe in yourself again. Seattle was nothing like New York, quieter, greener, slower paced. At first, I felt a little out of place, like a small town guy lost in a new city. But that feeling didn't last long. I found comfort in the fresh start. Work kept me busy. The new role was challenging, but I thrived on it. For the first time, my efforts weren't just background noise, they mattered. My ideas got heard. I was making an impact. And with that came a confidence I hadn't felt in years. But it wasn't just about work. I needed to rebuild my life outside the office too. I started reconnecting with old friends, the ones I hadn't seen in a while. We met for coffee, dinners, and even a few hikes. It was refreshing to laugh without feeling like I was hiding anything. One evening, I met Sarah at a local bookshop event. She was a kindergarten teacher with warm eyes and an easy smile. We bonded over a shared love for music and old vinyl records. Unlike Mia, Sarah asked about my work, genuinely interested, not judging or mocking. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could be myself without pretending. But even with this new chapter, the memories of Mia lingered. Sometimes when I was alone, I'd catch myself thinking about those nights, the parties where she humiliated me, the texts I never responded to, the way she called me her driver. I reminded myself it wasn't my fault. I had given everything I could. And then there was the painful lesson I'd learned. People show you who they are, not who you want them to be. One afternoon, out of the blue, I got a message on LinkedIn from a woman named Jessica. She was one of Mia's old friends, the one who had been at that dinner party when Mia called me her driver. Jessica wrote, "Hey Alex, just wanted to check in. Heard about everything that happened. If you ever want to talk or grab coffee, let me know." I wasn't sure what to make of it at first. But maybe this was a chance to finally close that chapter and build some new, healthier connections. I replied, "Thanks, Jessica. That means a lot. Let's grab coffee next week." That night, as I laid in bed, I realized something important. The past might have shaped me, but it didn't define me. My future was mine to write, and this time, I'd make sure to write it on my own terms. The coffee with Jessica was surprisingly easy. She wasn't the person I expected. Instead of gossip or judgment, she offered empathy, a reminder that not everyone I'd known in Mia's circle saw her the way she wanted to be seen. We talked about work, life, and the kind of people who can be toxic without you realizing it until it's too late. Jessica confessed she had started distancing herself from Mia long before everything blew up, the subtle signs of entitlement, the way Mia used people, how she thrived on control and attention. It was a relief to hear that, to know I hadn't imagined things. But the emotional wounds ran deep. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced myself for a message from Mia, apologies, insults, desperate pleas, the roller coaster of someone unwilling to let go. I'd blocked her number, but she found ways, texts from blocked numbers, messages through mutual friends, even a few emails. I ignored them all. One night, weeks after I moved, I got a call from an unknown number. I debated answering but finally picked up. "Alex? It's Mrs. Thompson. I'm Mia's mother." Her voice was shaky, regretful. "I just wanted to say, we're sorry. We never saw this coming, and she's not the daughter we thought she was." I said nothing at first, unsure how to respond. "I hope you find happiness. You deserve it." After the call ended, I sat in silence. Part of me wanted to be angry at them, at the family that raised Mia to use people as stepping stones. But mostly, I felt pity. I was done being a footnote in someone else's story. Slowly, I started focusing on me. I signed up for a local gym, joined a weekend music jam group, and even took a cooking class. These little steps weren't just distractions, they were building blocks for a new life. And then, there was Sarah. She became my anchor, someone who saw me, not just my paycheck or stability. Our friendship deepened naturally, free from pressure or pretense. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful. But hope wasn't the same as forgetting. Sometimes, when I caught a glimpse of a familiar face or heard a song from those old playlists, a pang of sadness hit. But I didn't let it define me. Because I was done surviving someone else's story. I was ready to write my own. The weeks after cutting ties with Mia felt like walking through fog, disorienting and slow. Some days I woke up with a tight knot in my chest, memories crashing like waves. Other days, I found myself laughing over something silly or feeling a spark of excitement about my future. It was a strange mix, grief, relief, anger, and hope all tangled together. I realized how much I had put aside for Mia. My ambitions, my passions, even my friendships had quietly faded into the background to support her carefully curated life, the photos, the events, the perfect couple image for social media. But now, it was time to rediscover me. At work, my promotion was no longer just a secret plan. It became real. I found myself thriving in the new role, challenged but energized. The company was based in Seattle, a city I'd only visited once before. The move was a fresh start in every way. The day I told my landlord I was moving out felt like shedding an old skin. The apartment where Mia and I had shared so many memories, good and bad, suddenly felt too small to hold all the emotions. I packed up slowly, savoring moments that felt genuinely mine for the first time in years. One evening, after a long day at work, I sat on my new balcony overlooking the city skyline. The sun was setting, painting the sky in pinks and oranges. I took a deep breath and let the calm settle over me. For the first time, I felt free. Then came Sarah. Our friendship blossomed quietly. A coffee here, a walk there, shared stories about work and life. She wasn't rushing or demanding. She was just there. One evening, after a casual dinner, she said softly, "You deserve someone who sees you, Alex. The real you." Her words hit me hard, but in a good way. I realized healing wasn't about forgetting what happened. It was about accepting it, learning, and moving forward without carrying the weight of past hurts. Mia faded from my life like a bad dream. Her calls stopped. Her social media vanished. The toxic web she'd spun unraveled without me. And in that unraveling, I found space to grow. Some nights, I still wrestled with doubt. Was I strong enough? Was I smart enough? But every morning, I woke up and chose to believe in myself a little more. Because now, my story was mine to write. Moving to Seattle was like stepping into a new world. The air smelled different, fresher, and the city buzzed with a kind of energy I hadn't felt in years. I threw myself into my work, determined to prove to myself that I was more than just Mia's backup plan. But even as I built this new life, there were moments when the past crept in. Late at night, when the city lights blurred and silence settled, I'd catch myself replaying the worst memories, the humiliations, the betrayals, the quiet moments when I realized I was invisible to the person I loved. One rainy afternoon, I met Sarah for coffee. She had become my anchor, a kind, steady presence who never pushed or rushed. "I'm proud of you," she said softly, stirring her latte. I smiled, grateful for her kindness but honest too. "It's harder than I thought, letting go of everything." She nodded knowingly. "Healing isn't linear. It's messy. But you're doing it." At work, my promotion had brought new challenges. Managing a team, handling big projects, it was stressful but fulfilling. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere, like I was valued. Despite the progress, I couldn't shake the nagging fear. What if I end up like Mia? Chasing appearances and forgetting who I really am. To keep myself grounded, I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. Writing helped me untangle my thoughts, face my fears, and remind myself of my worth. One evening, as I walked home through a quiet park, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Hey Alex, it's Jessica." My heart skipped. Jessica, Mia's old friend who had been so cold when things fell apart. I hesitated, then replied cautiously. We exchanged a few messages, awkward, hesitant. She admitted she'd felt guilty for how she'd treated me and that Mia's downfall had been a wake-up call for everyone. It wasn't much, but it was a start. That night, as I looked out over the rain-soaked streets, I realized something. Forgiveness, whether for Mia, Jessica, or even myself, wouldn't come overnight. But it was a path I was willing to walk. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it felt hopeful. Seattle was starting to feel like home. The endless drizzle, the hum of the city, even the steep hills, they all felt familiar now. Work kept me busy, but it was the quiet moments between deadlines that I valued most. Sarah had become a constant in my life, not just a friend, but someone I could lean on without fear of judgment. We'd share late-night talks about everything from music to dreams we once had but put aside. One night, she said, "You know, Alex, you're more than what happened to you. You've got this strength, even when you don't see it." I wanted to believe her. But not every day was easy. Sometimes, the past crept in unexpectedly. A song on the radio, a phrase someone used, or a familiar smell. And suddenly I was back in that apartment, feeling small and unseen. At work, my team was growing, and with it came more responsibility. The pressure was intense, but it pushed me to prove to myself that I could succeed on my own terms. One afternoon, during a company event, I ran into Emily, an old friend from college I hadn't seen in years. She was warm and genuine, and catching up felt like reconnecting with a part of myself I'd almost forgotten. "Alex, it's so good to see you. You look different, happier," she said with a smile. I smiled back, feeling a flicker of hope. "I'm trying." That night, as I walked through the city streets, I realized that healing wasn't just about leaving the past behind. It was about rediscovering who I was beneath the pain. There was still so much to learn, and so many pieces to put back together. But for the first time, I felt ready to face the future without fear. The weeks turned into months, and Seattle began to reveal itself as a place of second chances. I found a rhythm, mornings at the studio, afternoons running my small contracting business, and evenings spent with Sarah, whose friendship had become a lifeline. One chilly Friday evening, Sarah invited me to a community art event downtown. It wasn't my usual scene, but I decided to go, partly because I trusted her, partly because I knew I needed to step outside my comfort zone. The gallery was alive with color and energy. Artists mingled with patrons, sharing stories behind their work. As I moved through the crowd, I felt a strange mix of nervousness and curiosity. Suddenly, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned to see Emily, the friend from college. "Hey, fancy meeting you here again," she said with a grin. We spent the evening catching up, talking about old memories and new dreams. Emily had become a graphic designer, working for a startup focused on social impact. Her passion was contagious. Later that night, as Sarah, Emily, and I walked through the rainy streets, Sarah nudged me. "Alex, you're doing better than you think. You're opening doors, both in your heart and in your life." I looked at them both and smiled. For the first time in a long while, I believed it. But healing was still a fragile process. Sometimes, I'd catch myself thinking about Susan or Mia, the women who had taken advantage of me. Those memories stung, but they no longer defined me. One afternoon, I received an unexpected message. It was from Liam, Susan's former secret boyfriend. "Alex, I just want to say, I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve any of it." His message surprised me. Was it closure? Or just a fleeting moment of guilt? I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on the people who truly mattered, the ones who saw me, respected me, and believed in me. As the rain gently fell outside my window that night, I wrote in my journal, "Some doors close, others open. It's up to me to walk through them." Seattle's rain had settled into a steady rhythm as I began to rebuild my life brick by brick. After months of hurt and betrayal, I was finally learning to trust again, not just others, but myself. Sarah remained my constant. Our friendship blossomed slowly, naturally, a steady presence that never pressured or rushed. She had a warmth that made even the coldest days feel bearable. One Saturday morning, she invited me to her apartment for coffee and a casual breakfast. "Alex, have you thought about what you really want next?" she asked, stirring her latte. I looked out the window, watching people hustle beneath gray skies. "Honestly, I'm not sure." She smiled. "That's okay. Sometimes, the best things come from not knowing." Around that time, work took an exciting turn. My contracting business landed a project renovating a community center, a place that served refugees and low-income families. The job was demanding but deeply fulfilling. One afternoon on site, I met Carlos, the community center's coordinator. "Alex, your work here means more than you know," he said, shaking my hand. "This place has saved lives." His words struck me. For so long, I'd been defined by what others thought of me, Susan's sneers, Mia's public humiliation. But here, my work had real impact. Meanwhile, Emily reached out with a surprising offer. "We're launching a local business expo next month," she explained. "Would you want to showcase your company? It's a great way to meet new clients and build connections." Nervous but eager, I said yes. The expo was buzzing with energy, entrepreneurs, creatives, and hopeful dreamers. I set up my booth, sharing my story and business card with everyone who stopped by. To my surprise, Sarah and Emily were right there beside me, cheering me on. That night, after the expo, Sarah and I took a walk along the waterfront. The city lights shimmered on the water, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. "You're not the same man you were 6 months ago," she said softly. "No," I agreed. "I'm better." Rebuilding wasn't easy. I still wrestled with moments of doubt and loneliness. But every day, I chose to move forward, to build new foundations on honesty, respect, and self-worth. As I laid my head on the pillow that night, I thought about the past, the betrayals, the heartbreaks, and knew this time I wouldn't let them hold me back. Because sometimes, the hardest endings lead to the strongest beginnings. The months that followed the expo marked a turning point. My business steadily grew, not just in clients but in purpose. The community center project had opened doors I never imagined, and with Sarah's steady friendship, I was learning to trust again. One evening, over dinner at a small neighborhood cafe, Sarah asked me what I'd learned from everything. I thought about Mia's betrayal, Susan's cruelty, the public humiliations and private wounds. That respect isn't something you ask for or beg. It's something you deserve, and you have to be willing to walk away when you don't get it. Sarah smiled. Sounds like you found your self-worth. I'm still finding it, I admitted. But I'm no longer afraid to look for it. There were days I felt the weight of what I'd lost. The relationships, the time, the trust. But those were memories now, lessons carved into my story. I wasn't bitter. I was stronger. One afternoon, a text from an old client popped up. Alex, would you be interested in mentoring a young contractor? Someone who reminds me a lot of you. I smiled. It was an opportunity to give back, to help someone else grow, just like I was growing. As summer rolled in, I found myself standing on the porch of my new home, modest but mine. No longer a background character in someone else's story, but the author of my own. I thought about Mia and Susan, about the games they played and the roles they assigned. But I no longer carried the weight of their judgments. I had moved on. And in that moment, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and purple hues, I realized that moving on wasn't just about leaving people behind. It was about embracing the person you're becoming.